Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Russell Matthews and I'm back with another CRB update for you. Many of you know that CERB has ended, that's the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, and now it's transferred over to the Canadian Recovery Benefit. This has left a lot of people wondering, hey, am I actually eligible for that CRB or the Canadian Recovery Benefit? Today we're going to do a deep dive on one requirement to be eligible for CRB, and it's calculated in a way that you might not expect. In order to qualify for CRB, you have to either not be working, or you can be working but you have to be making 50% less than your average from last year. I've heard from a lot of frustrated people who are sitting just above that 50% mark, but there actually is a unique way to calculate it that might make you eligible even if you're earning a little bit more than 50% because it's averaged over across the weeks, but we're going to talk about that right now. People who are sitting at 55% of their income last year are like, come on, you've got to be kidding me. But wait, there could still be a way that you could qualify for CRB even if you're making that amount. And it has to do with the way your income from last year was averaged across the weeks and how much you're making on a 2-week period basis this year. But we're going to dive into it right now. But before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, I wanted to say, hey, nice to meet you. My name's Russell and I post videos about money, finance, personal finance, a little bit of real estate, and investing. The goal is to share information with as many people as possible so they can set themselves up to live a better life in the future. If any of that sounds good to you, or you just want to stay up to date with all the changing information about the CRB, make sure to hit that subscribe button down there because I'm bringing you new videos every day whenever there's an update, helping you navigate this whole benefit situation. With that said, let's get right into it and talk about your CRB eligibility. When you go to the CRA's webpage about the CRB, you can check out all the eligibility required to apply for the CRB, but today we're going to touch on the number one point. This is the first thing at the top of the page. Under eligibility criteria, it says during the period you're applying for, you were not working for reasons related to COVID, or you had a 50% reduction in your average weekly income compared to the previous year due to COVID-19. This is all pretty straightforward except for that 50% number. To a lot of people, it seems very arbitrary. Like if you're making 55% of your income, you can't qualify for all this extra money. You could be making far less than what you could be getting on CRB and be right around that 55%, which could be super frustrating. On the one hand, it is nice to have a job, and when these benefits run out, it could be a good thing that you're at your job. But on the other hand, it could be pretty frustrating that you're putting in this work and making less than the people who are just on the benefit. But hold on, if you're really close to that number, there could be a way that you calculate this 50% that would allow you to occasionally apply for the CRB depending on how much money you make that week. So let's take a closer look and find out exactly how this is calculated so you can be sure one way or the other if you're going to be able to qualify because of this 50% number. On the CRA website, it says the 50% reduction is based on your average weekly employment or self-employment income from either 2019 or the previous 12 months. You will need to check that you meet this criteria for every period you apply for. The key word in this statement is or. You can take your total income from 2019, or you can take your total income over the past 12 months, and that would include these months of 2020. To me, that sounds like if you've kept records of how much you've made monthly for the past 12 months, you can take a look at that, or you can take a look at your total income for 2019, and if you're close, you could pick the one that's lower just to get underneath that limit if need be. And again, that's just my interpretation, but I really believe that this is the way it's going to work. As a disclaimer, make sure to read this section of the bill yourself to make sure you interpret it in the same way that I do. I've gone ahead and pulled up the bill here, so this is the section of the bill that pertains to it, so I'm going to leave it on the screen here for a couple more seconds so you can pause the video and give that a read. Gonna leave it in 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's keep going. So that could be promising news. In case your past 12 months haven't been that great for income, that could make your total income for the past 12 months a little bit lower and maybe make it easier to apply for this 50% reduction. If you're trying to show that there's been a big reduction in your income, you're going to want to choose the greater of these two numbers. I'll give you a quick example of why this makes sense. Let's say you started a job in October of 2019. Assuming you didn't make any income at a different job earlier in the year, let's assume that over the period of October to the end of December, you made $10,000. Your income for 2019 would have been $10,000. 50% of that would be $5,000. It's pretty difficult to show that you're making less than $5,000 per year if you're working at a job right now. Let's say you kept working at that job through January, February, and through all of COVID, but at reduced hours. For this example, maybe you made $30,000 in that time from January until now. If we use the method of taking your past 12 months, that would be October 2019 until October 2020, then you could add all that together and you'd have an income of $40,000. Half of $40,000 is $20,000, so you would now need to show that you're making less than $20,000 a year in order to qualify for a CRB. Obviously, a lot more people are going to be able to show that they're making half of $40,000 than showing they're making half of $10,000. This is why it's important to choose the period that makes sense for you. Whichever income was higher is the one you're going to want to go with, either 2019 in total or the past 12 months. You'll have to decide that for yourself. But here's the interesting part. It's pretty easy to find out how much you made over the entire year, but these CRB periods are blocked into 2-week segments. So how am I going to calculate how much I need to make in those 2-week segments to decide if I'm eligible? Well, the CRA website says this. Their example says that over the past 12 months, or for the entirety of 2019, you've made $26,000. You're going to want to divide that by 52 to determine your weekly average. Once you've got that weekly average, 500 in this case, you'll divide that by 2 to determine what 50% of that is. To put it simply, if you make less in a week than that number, you should be able to qualify. Since CRB periods are calculated in 2-week increments, you can double this weekly number to get to your total that you can make in the CRB period in order to still qualify. To keep going along with the CRA example, half of their weekly income from last year is $250. But because we're calculating CERB periods in 2-week segments, you're going to want to double that, and that'll bring it up to $500. If this hypothetical person made less than that $500 in that 2-week CRB period, they would be eligible to apply. It's important to remember that your eligibility can change on every 2-week by 2-week basis. It could be possible that for one 2-week period, you make more than half of your income from last year for that 2-week average. On the flip side, maybe you have less hours and it's due to COVID and you make less than that number. Now for that period, in the next 2 weeks, you can apply for CRB. And the nice thing about the CRB is that you can apply for it 13 different times over the course of the entire next year. So if your income is fluctuating like that, you could be able to get the entire CRB benefit over the course of the year. So I hope this has helped you have a better understanding of how exactly to calculate that 50% income and whether or not you can qualify based on this eligibility requirement. Again, with the CERB, the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, now transitioning to the Canadian Recovery Benefit, I'm glad to be able to share a little bit of this information to help you figure out if you qualify. If you found this video at all helpful, hit that like button down there. It's crazy how much just one like will show this video to so many more people who could really need the information. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because I'm going to keep bringing you videos whenever there's an update on the CRB and all of the other benefits. And I want to be able to make sure that you are ready to apply and you're ready to be able to understand that you are qualified for it and that you can apply right away as soon as possible. So hit that button down there. Next time, we're going to talk about how to calculate if you need to pay back any of the CRB if you end up making closer to the $38,000 cap. We'll talk about that more in the next video. But for now, that's it for this CRB update, and I'll see you next time.